upload it in, which is usually the easiest way. So anyway, lovely to see you two, as always. It's so much better actually engaging with people on a call rather than talking to myself. I do that enough on my own as it is.
I liked your Instagram posts, if I may say so, were fantastic.
So again,
Your Instagram posts.
which one?
There's the Arbon Y one, and then also the clips of your speaking at the PSA from your story.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, excellent. Oh, no, I'm glad you like them.
Yeah,
So,
Duncan.
very good.
I
Yeah.
have to say, Jonathan said to me, he went, obviously you have a naughty mind, he said, because of the skit where it's got the one that it's got on there. So how do you please yourself? Well, I
The
know how
rude
I
bit.
did it. I
Yes.
learned to please myself. And I don't mean like that either. And he was just
Yeah.
like, oh, he said, I thought that was quite funny. I said,
Thanks.
well, it's all part of my story now. I said, so it's embedded in there. So, it breaks the ice. So anyway, as always, it's lovely to have you two on board, and it makes it so much better when it's not just me, myself, and I talking to myself. So anyway, and obviously I also want to say a thank you to the lovely Lorraine a couple of weeks ago, who managed to drop into here for me and let everybody know that it wasn't happening. The only person that didn't actually get to find out we wasn't doing it was Duncan. So he came on board as always to come and join. So he's sitting in the waiting room with as Billy No Mates. Bless him.
Yes.
So anyway, this week it's later than it obviously planned, but we will be tackling the week 2 of the session. But just as a reminder to everybody, what we're doing within this community is just giving you some insights from my Freedom Transformation Formula, which I teach my clients as either a full program, or I break it down into these 4 elements that we have showing here. And with week 1, the reset, that's all about resetting where you are in relation to your stress levels. Because unless you create awareness of those, then how can you do anything about it? And the second week, I'm going to be covering off in a moment, because we'll be talking about that on a deeper level. The third week, I'm always having to put my teeth back in, obviously an age thing, is all about reflect. It's being able to reflect where we are in relation to, it's rather like introspection. So anybody that doesn't know what introspection is, it's effectively like holding a mirror up to yourself and looking within yourself and trying to understand the connections between some of the decisions you've made and some of your choices. So, and being able to find a way that you can be able to effectively unlock self-doubt, limiting beliefs, lack of confidence, that imposter that pops up every now and again. And then the 4th week is one of my favorite areas, which is all about rediscovering your why, being able to do what you love with purpose, passion, and joy. And or be more dragonfly, as I say, and because that's what dragons do. I mean, they only have a short window of life, but every single second counts. So every moment that they live it with purpose, passion, and joy, and they're very active during that time, I might add. So anyway, so what is the second module all about? So that's all about re-injecting vitality and energy into your life, because yes, you found out what's causing you to feel stressed, but you cannot drink from an empty cup. So once you've discovered what's causing you to feel stressed, you need to be able to top that cup up, so to speak. Just got Maria coming in. Marion, should I say? And yeah, you need to be able to top that cup up to re-energize yourself, so you're able to do something about it. because so many of us are running at 1,000 miles an hour. We don't take well-needed holidays. In fact, in many cases, particularly in corporate environments, and I'm sure this is something you'd recognise, Duncan, is that people often wear it like a badge of honour, not actually taking any well-meaning breaks for themselves. And that's why they end up getting tired, worn out, and burnt out. And but when I work with my clients using my GEMS wellbeing journey, it helps them to learn the art of being able to just stop and slow down, to re-energize, learn the art of gratitude, and being able to enhance themselves, and actually unlock some of the myths surrounding meditation, and equally putting strategies in place to be able to re-energize themselves. And tonight we're going to be actually focusing on the second pillar, which is all about enhance. And that's the process of being able to improve and amplify different areas of your life, being able to promote your overall well-being. And it focuses on your overall well-being. It focuses on what you're consuming, what you're eating and drinking, and being able to prioritize some of the activities. And yeah, just give you the boost of energy that you need. So and as an example, it will be the process of lifting you up, making you feel like that like, well, especially when the sun comes up, it's giving you a fantastic lift, and being able to be motivated to do whatever you want. And equally is promoting that sort of well-being, when you're connecting with the sunlight, which we're going to talk about in a moment. And also becoming even more centered. And then, of course, when we're feeling like that, then we can achieve greater success. It helps us to grow even further. And I'm not going to actually reflect at this stage, because I'm conscious that we already lost a bit of time. But I would just like to say we've got the lovely Marion on the call, I believe. So it's nice to see you there. Hopefully you've managed to connect okay, because I know sometimes you struggle, Marion. But I'm intrigued. What's the temperature like where you are? Because it's been hot here. So if it's hot here, I'm sure imagine it's going to be quite warm where you are. So just in case she's dropped any messages in the chat, right? She's not presently. So anyway, so what do I mean by enhance? Well, with enhance, it actually has 3 key stages, which helps my clients. And one of them is all about energy. And for those that are unfamiliar with it, energy, it encompasses like the exchange of energies that occur through the interactions we have with people, our relationships, with living beings, the natural world. And we get so much energy for that. And I think I just showed you an illustration of someone standing out in the sunlight. Now, just the 20 seconds of daylight, first thing in the morning, helps with your circadian rhythm. So that actually helps with your sleep at night. I mean, who would have thought the way in which we start our morning helps the way in which we actually finish our day? And of course, it not only helps us to improve our sleep, it increases our energy levels that go with it. There are more steps. So earthing, which I'm not going to cover off today, but earthing is effectively another way of describing grounding for anybody that's not familiar with that. It is absolutely connecting with our bare feet, with nature, or touching trees or anything like that. It is literally that, you're earthing and connecting with the earth. So, and it has such wonderful benefits to it. And then one of the other areas is eating, and that's what we consume inside and out of our bodies. And that's obviously a topic that both me and Lorraine are very, very, and actually Duncan as well, love so much, because that's where Arbon comes into it heavily, because that is all about what we put on our skin and what we put into our mouths and put into our bellies, so to speak. So anyway, so what does energy mean? I've already mentioned that, how it encompasses how we're actually feeling. But the way in which we can achieve it is obviously through being surrounded by people. Now, it's quite interesting. I mean, I was at the Speaker University this weekend, and one of the things I often find, for the most part, I walk into a room, and as soon as I walk in there, especially at these types of events, because so often they're with like-minded people, and I think you found this as well, Duncan, is that because so many people they actually get it, they understand why they're there, they're going through this journey of growth themselves and want to improve themselves. They, I don't know, you get this vibe off of everybody, and your energy lifts as you walk in the room. You immediately sort of like go, I want to be in there. And yet, the interesting thing is, you can have the absolute reverse out of it, where you walk into a room, and when you walk into it, it's almost like you hit this wall, and it's like,
Mm.
whoa, back out, back out. Don't want to be in this room. There's like just almost like this presence in there that is not serving you in any way. Now, I'm intrigued actually. Is this something that you've experienced yourselves? So put a yes in the chat if it's something you've experienced, or or maybe share.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, Keely, that's, I mean, really a lot of my work experience is with hindsight a little bit. You always feel like you've really got to get over this huge hurdle, and it's one of the reasons why I went on that course in the first place, was just trying to figure out how to actually overcome that, because otherwise, you kind of you're always in this very negative situation, and so it's been a real transformational experience. But it's exactly as you say, when you go on the course there, the most amazing thing about it is it makes you realize how rarely it is that you walk into a room and everyone's so welcoming and what have you, and really up for working together on whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What about yourself, Lorraine? Is that the sort of like polar opposite experience? Have you ever found that when you walked into a room and you've gone, oh, I don't really want to be in
Uh,
here?
well, I always say, does the room light up when you enter or when you leave?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And hopefully it's when you enter. I think when there's been sad situations, maybe like a funeral or something, I think initially, walking in and they're it's kind of like a kind of darkness almost. But I think when they start to talk positively about the person, whose life's being celebrated, you can feel them, everybody from being sad, you can feel the stories and the memories starting to uplift. And then as people share different memories, I think that's one of the biggest things I've ever noticed.
Mm.
It starts there, and then it kind of lifts. I generally don't go into rooms where there's lots of negativity, or if I sense there is, I think no, not my room.
Yeah, although arguably that's not always feasible. I mean, one of the things I found in the corporate world, and particularly when I was going through the whole organizational change, which had been going on for a couple of years, and it starts becoming quite toxic. Everybody's being guarded, they're watching over themselves, they're worrying about what their future is. So when you start going into those situations, you walk into a room and it's really heavy, and that sort of presence that you have in there is not the environment that you want to be in, but you don't realize how sucked into it you get until you actually step away from it. So, but I used to quite often walk into a meeting room, and when I walked into it, I was like, whoa, I don't want to be in this room at all. This is not going to serve me. So there's that. And then of course, you get like the connection from going outside, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But even with relationships, when you're in a relationship with someone, or the relationship you have with your family, close people, loved ones in your life, those relationships can help them improve the way in which you feel. You get that energy from someone, and you can start seeing that in a relationship with someone when they're going through difficult and challenging times. It will actually have an impact on each other. Whatever one person is feeling, it starts gravitating towards the other person in their life. Or if you've got a friend they're really, really struggling, and you can sense everything that's going on. I mean, it's really strange how sometimes when you're in someone's company, without knowing what's gone on in their world, you have that feeling with them that something's not quite right. And interestingly, you immediately say, is is everything okay with you? You know, you do that check-in with them because it just doesn't feel their normal sense. And they may not have changed their demeanor or the way they look, but you get that energy off of them. So, and then of course, you know, the energy you get by things that are around you, like living animals. I mean, how can that not make you want to smile and feel good and energized? But I mean, I know that my dogs, well, especially Maddie, I mean, she was like a lifesaver for me when I was in my most difficult time, when I was in full burnout. Because whenever I mean, one, I was going out walking with her every single day, but also dogs and cats, they can sense when you're feeling low, and they'll come and sit and give you a cuddle. You know, they snuggle up to you, and you get that energy from them as well. It gives you a lift, and you can't help but smile, even at the you know, the toughest of times. So, and I mean, apart from which, how can you not smile when you see that picture? It's just gorgeous, isn't it? So, and then of course, you know, we've been, you know, the beauty around you is going to have benefits for you as well. So, so before I go any further and share some sort of tips of how you can re-energize, what thoughts have you got? Any experiences?
I love that, Killian. Actually, for me, you know, my day starts with a dog walk overlooking all of Edinburgh, great views, chatting to neighbours who've got their dogs, and then I go on for a bit of an extra walk right up the hill. And I think, you know, that's such a nice way to start, isn't it? You know, you're not rushing around on any kind of computer or system or anything. And I'll often sit there if it's sunny and just roll my dog's ball and, you know, just enjoy the sun on your face. And I do take my shoes off and do, you call it earthing, I call it grounding, same thing.
Yeah.
And I just tend to watch where I put them when there's a lot of dogs around. Yeah, it does feel nice, doesn't
Yeah.
it? And someone said they like how it feels more in winter than summer.
Mm.
But it's too
Yeah.
cold in Scotland to take your shoes off in the winter.
Yeah, so it's great. And when if I'm honest, I do call it grounding, but I was doing alliteration, so I had all begin to
Right.
be.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think when you look outside, like when I look at those windows there and it goes right across Edinburgh,
Yeah,
I think, you know, the sun's shining, the trees are kind of blowing in the wind. You know, that is lovely. You know, if I was looking out there and it was winter and it was snowing and raining and grey, it doesn't light you up quite the
right.
same. And that picture you showed of the Alps and everything, I mean, that just the minute that came on, I was like, oh.
Yeah, yeah. And what about yourself, Duncan? Any thoughts?
Well, at the weekend, I was just outside and in a garden and just sitting there eating at a table. And I took my shoes and socks off and just let my feet sort of sun on the grass. And I would never have even thought of doing that. And the other thing, you know, just thinking about this group and how great it is to be part of it, is about in a group, how much you can really speed up by going through this process. If you're on your own, whatever you're sort of grappling with, it's going to take as long as it takes, which could be a very, very long time. But when
Yeah.
you're in a group like this, because where you want to get to is out the other side of it as quickly as possible. And you can speed it up. It's not like you just have to kind of let nature take its course for years and years and years and suffer, when you can just join a group and bingo,
Yeah.
you know, you can catapult yourself out of that state with a few fairly straightforward steps. At least gets you started.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, interestingly, we're going to be talking about that in a moment. So it was almost like you preempted me. So it just means that what I'm about to say will connect with you, Duncan. So that's really, really lovely. I know sometimes it's very difficult for you, Marion, in there. So if you can't say anything at all, then just message in the chat if there's any experiences that you want to share, and I'm happy to share that with everybody else. Okay. And I'm never quite sure whether you're actually connected or not as well, because I know you have difficulties, especially when it thunderstorms. It's probably nice. Yeah, okay. All right, lovely. All right. So let's just go back to sharing and making sure that I've got that shared. Okay. Okay. Right, okay then. So just taking your point, Duncan, as I say, it was almost like you read my mind. So here are a few tips on how you can actually re-energize yourself. And one of which is by connecting with people. I mean, if you engage in sort of meaningful conversations and spend a time with people that inspire and motivate you, and in those environments, it lifts you up. And as you turned around and said, Duncan, you know, when you started becoming a member of like the PSA, because there's so many people in that room that are inspirational, they achieve so many things, you know. And what's the old saying, you know, if you change your environment, that's going to help to change you as well. Whereas if you stay in an environment where people don't want to change, it makes it that much harder for you to be able to move forwards yourself. You can eventually do it if you've got that inbuilt passion, but it makes it 10 times harder. But when you see somebody else achieve things, as long as you don't compare yourself to them and you use them as sort of like a motivation in a sense because of the inspiration that they have, then that's good. But just as a reminder, do not compare yourself to them, because the only person you can compare yourself with is yourself. So that's inspirational people. And then, of course, as you just mentioned, is that, you know, when you're in sort of networking groups and you're, you know, chatting with people, whether it's on a personal or professional level, and you've got those like-minded individuals, you can share ideas, experiences, and that can re-energize you and rejuvenate your enthusiasm. I mean, in fact, one of my good friends from the PSA, one of the ACE coaches, you know, because they're quite isolated and, you know, love their families to the end of the world, but don't quite get what it is that they're doing. You know, when they come to the PSU with us for the 4 days, it actually really helps them to sort of kickstart and move forwards again, you know, because they struggle on their own, and it does make it harder. So, and then of course, as we've mentioned, is that, you know, mentoring, coaching, you know, if you're with someone that's mentoring you or coaching you, and let me be clear here, it's just because you're the mentor, it doesn't mean to say that you don't benefit from the mentee, because you get different perspectives, you know, you got different ideas, and it can be really energizing. I mean, I know I love it when I'm either mentoring or coaching someone, because, you know, just seeing their smile, seeing the idea creations. I mean, some of the ideas that they come up with, you know, I wouldn't even be on my radar. And it's really lovely to have those new experiences. I mean, even the call we did last night, Lorraine, you know, some of the stuff that was shared on the call last night, you know, some really great, powerful tips. And I'm not talking about mine. I'm talking about some of the others, you know, because that'd be really arrogant of me, wouldn't it? So, but and then, of course, you know, when you've got, say, team building activities, you know, that can be really bonding. I mean, even with a team of colleagues at work, you know, sometimes when their relationships are not working very well, by doing those team building exercises, it can actually strengthen bonds, and it helps you to be able to start seeing things from different perspectives, be able to work together more effectively because you start understanding each other. And then there's the other idea, a concept as well, is that, you know, by volunteering, when you're volunteering within a community or, you know, with a club or something like that, you know, that can have, you know, great benefit to you because you've got that interconnectedness with other people. So before I continue, I just got a couple more tips. So any thoughts before we go forwards?
Fantastic. And you were fabulous last night with your tips.
Thank you.
It's funny because if you do a fitness class, you know, and people all do different ones, and I did an amazing one last night, and the energy in the room, you know, everybody seeing people enjoy what they were doing, and she was giving different things to do, and you know, it's like when you can see someone succeed, someone else thought, oh, I can do that too. Oh, if she can do that or he can do that, I'll have a go, because they weren't going to have a go. You know, it's like, you know, I said, here, have my band, you know, have a go. And then the whole room's uplifted. So when everyone left, everybody was on a high.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're right, it does encourage others to perhaps take steps that they otherwise wouldn't have had. I mean, even if you take when we go into the pods, Duncan, you know, when people first start out, you know, they're, you know, some are, I mean, they're terrified, absolutely terrified
Oh yeah,
when
I
it comes
will. I
to
was. Yeah,
speaking.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you know, because one's got up, it encourages the next one and the next one and the next one. So, and because it's a safe space as well, it makes it that much easier to be able to trial and test it and give it a go. And your confidence grows with it as well. So,
Yeah.
or the other side of it is that you end up indirectly being persuaded to do things that you don't want to do, like jump out of a plane.
Oh, I've
That's
done
right.
that.
Yeah, so have I. With a parachute, I might add, but
Yeah. Oh yeah, sort of. Yeah, it's funny. Just a little story from my side is that, so just to sort of show the power of the community, I'm just about to leave another one. I was in a job search group from a career coach called JT O'Donnell, who's actually based in the US, and everyone else on the call was from America. And I just joined during lockdown. There was an annual membership that was a bit more than the few dollars a month, which is the original kind of help with your CV and LinkedIn profile type thing. So there's this group I was part of, but I've decided to sort of move on from it because it's but leaving it was really, it's a sort of emotional experience. I'm really sorry to be going. I think it's definitely the time to move on, and JT's sort of happy that I'm doing what I'm doing now, but just shows how powerful it is, because once you've joined something, it's such a, you get such an uplift. And we were doing live YouTube sort of interviews during lockdown, and
Mhm.
yeah, I was absolutely terrified of that. And but we sort of come through that, and it's the power of it is just immense, and it's been so nice to be part of it. And it's really, really difficult to leave it.
Yeah, yeah, and it is hard. I mean, actually, interesting you say that. So, my first business coach that I had after I left my company, R.i.s.k, fantastic man, really lovely. You would absolutely adore him, Lorraine. He's just such a great character. You'd like him as well, Duncan, but I just know with you, you'd
Yes.
be like, you're like, is in my space. Actually, Jean. You know, Jean in the PSA,
Yeah.
well, I introduced her to him because he's part of Innovate UK and helps people get, you know, products and funding and all those kind of things. And it turns out he's literally in the other street from her.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's just bonkers, absolutely bonkers, small world. But anyway, when I first met him, I didn't do any sort of video recording on live. I didn't go onto LinkedIn, or you know, I mean, I was on LinkedIn, but I didn't do lives. I'd never run a webinar, done none of those kind of things. And
Yes.
part of my business coaching with him was about getting me to step out of my comfort zone. And the first thing that I did, it was on my actual birthday, so that would have been my 51st birthday, yeah. So when I was on my 51st birthday, he had set me the challenge to do it, and he had actually sent me a bottle of champagne because I never got a chance to celebrate my 50th birthday. So he
Yeah.
sent a bottle of champagne, and I did my video recording, posted it, and also then opened up my bottle of champagne, and it's got both of us recording, doing that, having a glass of champagne together. So, and
Lovely.
you think about how much I've achieved. So if you think about it, Duncan, how
Yeah.
much I've achieved since that point in time up until now is
Yeah.
just incredible. It's insane. And it just goes to show how other people can help to lift you up and help you to
Yes.
grow. It's fantastic.
What a great story. Yeah.
Love that.
So just carry on a bit. So the other ways in which you can re-energize is, of course, as we've already mentioned, it's by, you know, reconnecting with nature. You know, when we spend time outdoors, whether it's hiking, biking, walking, just fresh air, just being around natural surroundings will benefit us and clear our mind and boost our energy levels. And of course, you know, the added benefit to that is if you do mindfulness whilst you're walking, you know, it helps us to focus on the sights, the sounds, the smells. I mean, if I go back to when I was actually walking Maddie, when I first used to go over to the Barton's Point, which is like it's a big like marsh area with a lovely lake, and it's you know, it's where we camp actually, and it's just across from the sea. And it's really, really beautiful area, you know, sunlight, you know, sun up, sun down, but you know, you've got in the fields to the side, you've got like all the sheep in the field or the cows. On the actual lake itself, you've got all of the swans that are, you know, taking off, which are really lovely. And you can hear the sound of the birds. It is just such a beautiful environment. But when I first went there, because my brain was still going at 1,000 miles an hour and trying to make sense of what had actually gone on with me, you know, with my redundancy and all the conversations, the interviews, all the toxic, you know, conversations like on repeat, then suddenly that all stopped. And over time, where my mind had actually cleared, I could hear all of the sounds of the birds, appreciate the swans taking off, you know, looking at the sheep to the field around me. And in the distance, you can see like them playing golf as well in the field. You know, all of those things, you just learn to just connect with nature, and it's such a wonderful thing. So I can say that it was my greatest healer, that walking every single day. So I cannot encourage anybody enough to do it, you know, even if it's just going out for a couple of minutes, just going outside and connecting with nature. And then of course you can do like nature retreats, you know, whether it's in a mountain or forest, on the beaches, you know, it gives you a chance to reflect and recharge just away from the daily grind, you know, because I think someone was saying that they was in some area and their mobile phone wasn't working. Oh, I think it was on a cruise. I was like, well, to me, that's bloody good, because if you're on a cruise, you're on holiday, you don't need your mobile phone and you don't want the internet to be working, because it makes it as an excuse to be WhatsApping or messaging or whatever that you do. So this is a great way to unlock that. So, and then of course, gardening. I mean, if you've got the space, and if you haven't, you know, I mean, I do recommend people sort of finding an allotment or something like that, or in what I'm going to talk about in a moment is like indoor gardening. But it's so therapeutic, and you know, when you're connecting with nature, you also get that sense of accomplishment, which is why it's really nice when you do it with kids as well, because they can watch it all grow and they get a sense of I don't know, they just get a sense of accomplishment from when they've been growing it, and more likely to eat them as well. So, and as I mentioned, if you don't have the space and you're in a flat, then obviously if you can, you know, incorporate plants and natural elements into your workspace or in your rooms, you know, having those within your environment helps, one, improve your air quality, but it also promotes a calming atmosphere as well. So, and then finally is being able to actually combine the both of them, where you're actually doing nature-based networking. And you know, when you're doing those kind of things, then you know, obviously when you're talking to people, it means that, as you said, is that when you're sharing ideas or problems or experiences, and you build that sort of camaraderie with people, then that really, really promotes you to have so much more energy. And when you're connecting with nature with others, I mean, one of the things that I'm doing with one of my photographers is that we want to, you know, we're in the process of finalizing this mindfulness training, where people actually utilize the camera to illustrate all the beauty around us, but it's also a great way to show when people see from different perspectives, because what you will see will be different to what I see. And it's a great way when you're in teams to actually illustrate that not everybody sees the same things. You know, they'll have a different way of thinking, seeing, doing, all those kind of things. And when you can talk about that and show it, then it then helps you to work together better, improve your relationships. So anyway, that's where we finish. So any thoughts on any of those last points?
I think it's so fabulous, isn't it? Looking after yourself, getting into nature, being surrounded by people with the same energy as you, feeding off each other and helping each other.
Yeah, excellent. So what was that? So Marion, I can relate to this. Even at work, I have recently developed the habit of going to a little garden in the office. It does feel so refreshing. That's lovely. I'm glad to hear you're doing that now, Marion. That's really nice. So, and what about yourself, Duncan? Any thoughts before we jump ship?
It's just that thought that, as you're saying, you can intentionally put yourself in a certain situation by doing the things you're talking about, so that you can then, and even if you're struggling a little bit for whatever reason, you can shift your perspective.
Yeah.
And if you're really struggling, then if you force yourself to go and look at some trees, or just there's a park just up the road, you just 5 minutes walk around, come back, and it does make an enormous difference.
Yeah, and helps you to refocus your mind. I mean, it was interesting. I was doing a podcast on calmness, because on the 15th is Global Calm Day.
Oh.
And we were talking about strategies that you can achieve to do that. And they said, well, you know, what happens if someone says that they're really busy and all those kind of things? I said, yeah, but it's really about prioritizing what is important for you. And at the end of the day, our health is our wealth, and without it, it's meaningless. So it's about actually blocking your diary out, so you do have those windows where people can't actually book in time. And I don't care whether you're as an entrepreneur or running your own business or within a corporate environment, there must be a time that you can find to allocate for yourself, because just as a human right, apart from anything within a working environment, you know, they don't have the right to have you working solidly, you know, for 12 hours. I mean, it's just unacceptable. But then the other side of it is also about us prioritizing our time in the right way. Rather, like when we talk about what we eat and what we drink, you know, it's all about priorities, how much you invest in yourself. So you have a choice. You don't necessarily have to go like expensive or anything like that, but you do have a choice between having one thing over another thing. So that's where I'm going to finish tonight. So it's been absolutely wonderful, as always. Thank you for joining me, Lorraine, Duncan and Marion. And if anybody else that's watching this has got any questions, and of course they want to learn more or think that they might be struggling in some way or another, and they would like to perhaps, you know, have a conversation, then I'm here, and I would love to see if there's ways that we can unlock that for you. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. Take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your evening, Keely. Bye.
Thank you, Marianne. Appreciate. Bye. Bye.